The Hagman and Hagman report for today. It's a terrific Tuesday edition. It's February 17th, 2015. I'm Doug Hagman, I think. Let me check. Yep, I'm Doug Hagman, the co-host, along with my son Joe Hagman. Together, we are the Hagman and Hagman report. Folks, you're in for a great show tonight. 3 hours of unbiased, uncensored news, information, and analysis. You're listening to the only show where the news is presented to you in 3D, and we look well beyond the headlines, the bylines, the fog of disinformation, misinformation, misdirection, to bring you the news behind the news. Can you tell I'm struggling to breathe here, Joe? I just did a O.J. Simpson commercial. Remember those? Through the airports, running into the studio. Anyway, wow, I can't believe I made it. Okay, for the new listeners, we broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Our home base, of course, on the internet is HagmanandHagman.com. That's HagmanandHagman.com. Check it out. We're putting some new things on there. And tonight, hopefully, I can get everything that I've been promising up to put up there. Just so much going on in the news, so much going on in the world today, folks. You just don't know where to turn. It really is. It's kind of crazy. But before we get into this, I just want to remind everyone that the portions of tonight's broadcast are brought to you courtesy the fine folks at naturebox.com. Folks, if you haven't tried naturebox.com, if you haven't gotten your free trial yet for naturebox.com, if you haven't pulled the trigger on to purchase to get your free trial of naturebox.com, do yourself a favor today. After tonight's show, go to hagmanandhagman.com, click on the icon for NatureBox. It's all the way down on the bottom, or just go to naturebox.com/CFP radio. Either way, it'll take you to our very special page there at naturebox.com, where you can sign up for your free trial. $2 for shipping. That's all it is. But, folks, do yourself a favor. Really try it out. You have nothing to lose, everything to gain. And they're great people. It's a great company. It's a great product. We love it. We use it. We're customers, consumers. That's naturebox.com/CFP radio. Joe, welcome. Welcome to the studio. You're going to be, folks, in case you don't know this, tomorrow I'm flying solo. My guest tomorrow night are going to be Tim Alberino and Steve Coyle.
Yeah, and just if I can jump in here, anybody who's hearing an echo, if you try to refresh the sound, there are some people in chat heard an echo, refresh the sound, and didn't have the echo. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but that's I don't think that's on our end.
What's really interesting, Joe, is we have three computers right now monitoring the internet, monitoring the show. And with each computer, there's a show clock attached, folks, to each computer system. We have 3 different times for the show. Now, that shouldn't be, because we're on the same network, it's all interconnected. I'm not talking about your computer time. I'm talking about the countdown clock, the program clock. Pretty bizarre. So, anyway. But for those of you who don't know, Joe's going to have some surgery, and some say minor surgery. No surgery is really minor, but he's going to have some back surgery done. He's got an issue with a mass pushing against his spine. It's benign. It's going to be removed, and he'll be back
up against my spine. It's just on my
when you sit
lower back area.
Sit back against the chair.
But it's more close to the flesh when they're doing the procedure. So it's not really the biggest part of it is and this is something you've had done in your past.
Yeah.
And I'll be put under anesthesia, which you weren't. And you said if you had the option, you would be put under anesthesia.
Yeah, I had a spinal done, and this is back 30 years ago, when I had my back surgery done, and even to this day, I can feel where they put the numbing needle or whatever you call it, or
And I've been put under before for other reasons. I've never had any problem with anesthesia, so I'm looking forward to the day off tomorrow. Nice, relaxing day off.
No, you know what? We're actually going to bring the headset to the hospital room and make you do from the Anyway, to start tonight's show off, I just want to address something here. Got a wonderful package from a listener, and let me see here if I can. Robert and Leanne. I'm not going to obviously give the last name. We don't have their permission. Beautiful pictures of their children, shall we say, four-legged family members. But you know, it's interesting, and here's why I mentioned this. I want to thank you so much for your package. Joe and I want to thank you so much for your package and a beautiful letter and beautiful pictures. But Robert and Leanne, Ryan and Lindsay, I hope I got this right. Let me just make sure, because the way... Right, okay, there we go. Robert and Leanne, okay. This is a great example of how you perceive things, your perception, how people perceive things differently. You know, Joe, we're not, neither one of us are public speakers. We weren't trained as public speakers. We were trained in the art of, what would you call it, direct examination, asking questions, asking interview questions, being rather contentious, you know, that kind of stuff, or being friendly, but getting answers. We're not radio people. But I have this habit of saying, wow, quite a bit, right? You know, and it's genuine, too. Because when I hear things, like stuff Russ talks about or others talk about, I say wow a lot. And I mean it. So anyway, back to the package. Get this package. Beautiful letter. Nice. And I didn't read the letter before I opened it. I mean, the letter was in the package, but I didn't read it first. I looked at the contents of the package. And here are, I got it right here. I brought it from the office. And if this was on video, you could see this, but just gorgeous, and I sense, and I have to read the letter, but just gorgeous 3 letters. So I pull them out of the box, 3 wooden letters, and I'm thinking to myself, why did somebody send us the letters Mom, M-O-M? I'm looking at this, and I thought, my goodness, Mom, you know, you disconnect. And so I'm going through this mentally. I'm thinking, okay, Mom. So finally, Joe taps me on the shoulder, pushes me aside gently, and on the counter in our little office part of where we have the mail, turns the letters upside down or right side up. What does it spell? Wow. So, see, the reason I mention that is it's a lesson in perception. It's a lesson in you know, you look at something and you're sure. Sometimes you're so sure. Hey, that's, you know, okay, you're looking at something. Hey, Mom, turn it over. Turn it upside down. It's wow. So to that I say, not only thank you, but wow. So thank you, Joe, for correcting me on that.
Yeah, no problem.
And thank you, Leanne and family.
Yeah.
Robert and Leanne, thank you so much.
And we've got a lot of mail and thank yous to send out and respond to. But it's always nice to get, you know, things from the listeners, especially mail, insight thoughts on the show, on their personal experiences, on their lives, on how on their testimony, you know, what things have inspired them or led them to a positive change in their life. Yeah. And we get a lot of that through the mail, and it's just great. Josh Peck, actually, for those of you who remember, he's the author of Quantum Creation. He just released a new book, and he sent us a electronic copy, and we're going to schedule him to come on the show next week sometime. But let me find the name of his book here, and it is I think it's available now. And let me pull up the email here.
Josh
reached
is
out
one
to
of
us
the greatest,
today.
man. I mean, he's one of the best presenters that I've ever heard on the topics of quantum. I mean, he could
Cherubim Chariots.
Cherubim Chariots.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna love to read that.
He sent that to us, and that's available now. Also, this Friday we're gonna have a guest on named Dan Goodwin, evangelist Dan Goodwin. He wrote a book called God's Final Jubilee, and we received that today. Mr. Goodwin, if you're listening, thank you. He's going to be a speaker at the Orlando Prophecy Summit, prophecyinthenews.com, that we will be speaking at and attending this March 5th, 6th, and 7th. And that's Dan Goodwin, God's Final Jubilee. As I said, he sent us his book, and we got those today. And I really looking forward to the next couple of days. I'll be relaxing, and I'll be able to get into this book and to Mr. Peck's book. So we want to thank you guys for that. We do have Stan Deyo coming on tonight.
Second hour.
Hour number 2, and we have a number of things that we want to ask him, and I'm sure a number of things he wants to get into tonight. As my dad said, tomorrow, Steve Quayle and Tim Alberino will be guests, as my dad will be flying solo. Thursday, Jonathan Kahn will be on for hours 2 and 3, author of The Harbinger and The Shemitah. And then Friday, we'll be on Pastor Paul Begley's show from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, and then we will have Dan Goodwin on. So we got a full week, and
sounds great. And I was on, just for the people, listeners, if you listen to the Power Hour, Joyce Riley, Ted Brewer was guest this morning. So I was on for an hour this morning with Ted. We, I came unglued during that hour. I don't know if it's archived anywhere, but I was just really, I don't know what was going on. It must be the B complex, a combination of the B complex, the products that Ted has provided, as well as the essential oils and dietary changes, perhaps. I don't know, but it was like I felt like I was emulating Ted Brewer in terms of talking. I was just talking very quickly, and we were talking about a number of different things, and talking about the rise of the military state here in this country. It's getting bad. I mean,
in this country, how about Libya and Syria? I want to read it and start off with a headline tonight that just kind of made me take a second look. Obama to allow moderate Syrian rebels to call in B-1B bombers for air support. You heard me right.
Yeah.
Moderate Syrian rebels will be armed with Toyota pickup trucks with mounted machine guns on the back and radios for calling in U.S. airstrikes by American B-1B bombers. So, according to the Wall Street Journal, the planes would drop a 500 to 2,000 pound guided bomb, a typical load for the B-1s that have operated in Afghanistan as well as Syria, using the B-1 sniper pod, which allows the aircraft to precisely target moving objects. The crew could target tanks, motorcycles, and other moving vehicles. It goes on to say some of the timelines by the U.S. plan is the first training sessions are to last between 6 and 8 weeks. The training will focus on helping the rebel forces hold territory, counter Islamic State fighters, not to take on the Syrian army. After that, the U.S. will consider introducing what it calls the new Syrian force into the battlefield of Syria, officials said. A team of 4 to 6 rebels will be given a Toyota Hilux pickup outfitted with a machine gun, communications gear, and global positioning system trackers, enabling them to call in airstrikes. The fighters will also be given mortars. The administration hasn't decided to provide the teams with more sophisticated anti-tank weapons, though. U.S. officials don't know whether American planes will be able to provide air support if the modern forces train and get in a fight with non-Islamic State, but with forces loyal to the Syrian president. Because the U.S. isn't at war with Syria, U.S. military lawyers are wrestling with the question whether American warplanes would have legal authorization to strike Mr. Assad's forces, even to support a U.S.-trained rebel force. Aside from the legal issues, officials said, as a policy question, the White House hasn't given a green light to supporting the rebels if they get into battle with the Syrian military. So, I mean, this goes on to talk about, This is from what Dredge says. For one thing is certain, with the help of his new war hawks, neo-con friends, Obama will quickly transform what is supposedly a war on ISIS, which, recall in August, started as an isolation humanitarian intervention that would promptly end, into a true essence, undeclared war on the Syrian regime.
Wow.
Which means,
to think about that, John.
Wow. I mean, in the coming weeks, look forward to the surge in false flag attacks to be blamed on the Assad regime, aiming to give Obama validation to expand the war against ISIS to include Syria's regime as well. And this is what we've been saying all along. ISIS was a repackaged threat to be able to go in and take out Assad and his regime under the veil of a different agenda, completing the same goal.
You know, yeah. All right. How do you, ladies and gentlemen, how do you even respond to something like this or discuss this in polite company? I mean, we're all adults here, but what's going on here where we are giving operational command and control to what are termed moderate rebels? So, in essence, now just picture Putin doing this to the United States. I mean, look at the bigger picture here. We are propping up the anti-Assad rebels. Remember, in 2012 and 2013, we told you this was going to happen. We told you what the goal was. The goal was to destabilize Syria and oust Assad. It's always been that way. It's always been. That goal has always been there. Syria holds very extreme strategic importance to Russia and China. So we are going in, and remember, this is what Benghazi was all about, or at least a large part of Benghazi. It was a weapons-running operation. We told you this within 48 hours after Benghazi happened. We told you, number one, the compound there was not a consulate or embassy, but a CIA operations center. And number two, that operations center was under the direct guidance and control of elements within the executive branch as well as the Department of State, meaning to say Obama and Clinton, and under the DOS, or along with the DOS, the CIA. This is what Benghazi was all about. It wasn't about a blind shake. It wasn't about some October surprise where the blind shake was going to get released in exchange for Stevens. That conversations to that effect came much later and started out as speculation and deflected from the real core issue here, and that we can devote an entire hour to that by itself. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was to run arms and even personnel up to Syria via Turkey and Jordan. And Turkey is a key player in all of this as well. Bottom line here is this plan didn't, well, Putin exposed the plan by having his proxies, Ansar al-Sharia, and other terrorist groups hit the compound in Benghazi. And this goes back to July, the July previous to the September 11th hit when attack when Iranian Red Crescent workers were picked up off near that compound in Benghazi. It's all connected. But see, the bottom line here: Obama, Clinton, that group, that cabal of criminal element within the government, they are still in power. It doesn't matter if Hillary's not there. It doesn't matter because the agenda is still there. Different faces, same agenda. And the agenda is to destabilize Syria. Russians not having any of it. When it failed initially, bang. Let's set up Assad as being the bad guy in the chemical weapons attack. That was exposed. When that didn't take place, a third front was opened, or a different front was opened in Iraq. We told you about that via ISIS. We, the United States, the United Kingdom, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. Actually, yes, even the Saudis. It doesn't make sense in the microcosm of the situation. But even some Arab countries were propping up ISIS that should be termed as sworn enemies. And ISIS now, don't forget, ISIS, the head of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, it was reported. This is reported back in June of 2014, June of last year. It was reported that when al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, was incarcerated at Camp Abuka, he was let go, of course, in, I think it was 2009. His famous words, "I'll see you in New York." And that's meant to scare us, right? It's meant to frighten us. Don't forget Abu Omar al-Baghdadi, folks. In 2007, he was captured. In 2007, he was killed. In 2009, he was arrested, having been released between 2007 and 2009, or at least these are the reports. And then in 2009, he was let go. And then in 2010, he was killed again. So this guy died twice, arrested several times, let go at least once, and says, "We'll see you in New York." So imagine this, Joe. Imagine you're the head of security, and you're the head of security, and you've got the ability to keep anyone incarcerated for any length of time. All right, for any reason. And here you go. You got one of the allegedly or ostensibly one of the most dangerous men in the world. Allegedly, right? And he looks at you and says, "Hey, see you in New York."
What time?
Well, yeah. So you just say, "All right, have a nice trip, and God bless." Pack his bag for him. Give him his hookah and
and a plane ticket.
A plane ticket
was bought with tax dollars, I imagine.
Well, and this is the whole thing behind ISIS, the Islamic State. This
let some people out of Guantanamo Bay to be top commanders that you later put ransoms up for. I mean, it is so intertwined with our intelligence agencies and the CIA, like the CIA, into the British intelligence agencies. We know that the CIA
and Mossad,
Mossad, Saudi Arabia, to any real team of national intelligence agencies have been manipulating the mass media outlets. They've been manipulating the world events. They've been setting up this terrorist enemy since before 9/11, and have been able to propagate it through till today.
Right.
And they do this through the consolidation of the television, the news, radio, entertainment, the merger of all those, and those 6 corporations that everybody talks about.
Yep.
The CIA has been able to shape world events rather than watch them unfold and do something to fix them. And that's why you always hear, shaping the radio stations, and our local radio station, specifically the Fox contributor, shaping the news since whatever year they were founded. Really? When did it become shaping instead of?
That's a good point.
This is the CIA and the intelligence agencies, MI5, Mossad, MK Ultra, is a plan of the intelligence agencies that is very public. Project Mockingbird. There's so many, and the ones to attack, to paint things up as U.S. or Cuban ships, will say, for Northwoods, Operation Northwoods, was a plan.
Project Gladio.
Yeah, they created a plan to implement a false flag attack by painting up planes as Cuban planes and crashing them into United States cities to make an excuse to go to war with Cuba. They did this in the 50s. What do you think they're doing now?
Oh, you're right. Well, and folks, don't forget, it was either 1982 or 1983. Joe, I'm sure you would know this. Henry Kissinger wrote about 100 Years' War. And he was questioned about this. He was talking about 100 Years' War, and this was in the context of keeping the military-industrial complex going. And How so? Through 100 years war. Well, when and how would, when would this start, and what would ignite such a war? And his response was, when we ignite a war between the Sunnis and the Shiites. This is all part of the ISIS equation. The groundwork for ISIS. People like to think, and you hear this on CNN and other news organizations, that ISIS kind of just rose out of the blue. No, it didn't. It was planned. The infrastructure was there for, if not decades, certainly for years. Some say ISIS started in 2006 as a splinter group from Al Qaeda,
which was a U.S. creation.
Exactly.
Admittedly.
Yep. But when you look at it from a larger perspective, what we're seeing here is well, you know what? There's a general, and you remember Susan Price, Gold Star mother, who's appeared on our program, lost her son in Afghanistan, right?
Absolutely.
General Kimmett, back in April, I think it was in the Washington Post, April 10th, 2006, admitted that the U.S. military was pumping up the role of Zarqawi. This is reported on by Thomas E. Ricks, April 10th, 2006, quoting General Kimmett. And this is referenced as the Zarqawi PSYOP program. Internal briefing documents showed that this was a Pentagon PSY operation, psychological operation. Interesting, isn't it, when you start looking back and identifying the components? So you got Kissinger in 82 talking about laying the groundwork for what we're seeing. You got a military general, decorated general, who some may believe he's responsible for the deaths of many, admitting to pumping up, using PSYOPs to pump up the role of Zarqawi. And Zarqawi, of course, was the main man behind the beheadings at that time, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. And as we look at Abu Omar al-Baghdadi, go through it from 2007 to 2010, and up to the point where he said, "We'll see you in New York." He was supposedly detained at Camp Bucca from 04 to 09. We are on the precipice of a coming hell in this country, if you don't think so. And you see, people say, well, wait a minute, this is fear. And now I'm not addressing the critics, I'm addressing the legitimate comments of, well, wait a minute, this is done by ISIS or by others to create fear here in the United States. I agree with that to a point. I agree with, this see you in New York. It does strike fear in people, realistic fear, right? I mean, it's if you have somebody that looks at you who has the means, motive, and opportunity to kill you, and they say, we're going to kill you, do you take that seriously? Of course you do. You'd be foolish not to. So you've got this, the head of ISIS saying, we'll see you in New York. Do you take that seriously? Of course you do. But it's meant to instill fear. Is that fear well placed, or is that concern? Let's forget about fear for a minute. Is that concern well placed? I think it is.
Let's see. There's a new article that just came out across the wire here. U.S. officials admit concern over Syria's refugee effort. Top U.S. counterterrorism officials say they worry a potential terrorist could be hiding among refugees who are looking to come to the U.S. after escaping the brutal war in Syria. It's clearly a population concern. Director of National Counterterrorism Center Nicholas Rasmussen told the House Homeland Security Committee on Wednesday. He went even Committee Chairman Mike McCall, Republican out of Texas, went further, saying it would be a huge mistake to bring refugees from the conflict to the U.S., even as an estimated 4 million children, women, and men have been forced to flee Syria, and another 7 million have been displaced from their homes. They're unable to leave. So it's 11 million people that have been affected, having to leave their homes Just in Syria alone.
I refer back to the article by Gajendra Singh. We had referenced and talked about this many, many times. You know that Syria is not going to implode. You know it's going to explode. The number of Syrian refugees that Western intelligence at the hands or under the direction of Barack Hussein Obama, Hillary Clinton, and every single person around those two, including the Department of Defense, which is our War Department, Department of State I mentioned, the executive branch, but also the Gang of Eight. The Gang of Eight, this bipartisan Gang of Eight, as well as all of the leaders in Congress. They know about all of this. You see, this, Joe, this is why, and I think it's important for people to understand. Do you think, for example, the commission, Trey Gowdy's House Select Committee on Benghazi, do you think the truth will ever be known? No. They can't allow it to be known because the bloody fingerprints of not just Obama and Clinton are on this, but the Gang of Eight and every leader in Congress. You see, we're a captured operation. And here's something I want to, if I may, and then I'm going to be quiet, Joe, and let you talk because you got to make up for time tomorrow, right?
Not necessarily.
Here's something that everyone should really sit up and take note. I think, anyway, we're looking at a situation here look at this totally in a big picture kind of sense. Where we're at today with ISIS, Islam, and the coming storm here in this country. Take a look at what's going on in Europe. That's already here in the United States. It's just not being reported on. But more importantly, I think we have to recognize that the whole in this case is greater than the sum of its parts. Islam and ISIS are merely the conveyances in which a new world order will be ushered. You know, Islam, what is Islam, for example, in terms of what's its role in the current, well, what's its role in establishing the New World Order? Once again, this will be a tool or conveyance in order to usher in the New World Order. It's going to cause chaos.
Yeah, we got to look at what is a New World Order. What does this look like? A book, International Community, A Goal for New World Order, written by George C. McGee, writes this is a concert of powers working together and a world of independent nations equal before the law. Between them provide the most fruitful guide to American policy. The U.S. will need to act in concert with other major powers in order to sustain a stable balance. Indeed, its citizens will demand that it do so, but it will also need to work with the UN and other international and intergovernmental organizations, showing respect for other sovereign states and their legal rights. Only in extreme cases of emergency or humanitarian need will it be right to set aside the sovereignty of other states. A community of peaceable democracies reflects the aspiration and ideal. America must promote the adoption of liberal democratic values. And that's just one quote from his book.
Well, yeah, and
control over international sales of arms.
Wow, yeah.
They talk about this New World System. And interestingly enough, you know, the common theme in the New World, One World System is peace and security, peace and stability. But in the beginning of in the first chapter of his books, he says we must identify types of international problems for which solutions could be undertaken, find the means to apply ready and effective sanctions against those who threaten world peace, and agree on procedures for the application of force in the event that all other measures fail. So through force comes the peace and security.
Through force?
Yes, through the application of force in the event that all other measures fail. And this pertains specifically, he mentions this after talking about the balance of power after the USSR had been, in the communist system fell and the United States emerged as a true world power. He mentions creating a European community and solving the Arab-Israeli dispute. then goes on to mention doing this so they'll have to have ready and effective sanctions against those who threaten world peace and agree on procedures for the application of force in the event that these measures fail.
Well, you know, on the Power Hour this morning, I made reference to Islam and it's what it will be here in this country, and why it was introduced, and or why it was allowed to become such a force in such a short amount of time. And as I mentioned, it's a tool for exactly what Joe just described. But I will say this, that people need to understand, and our listeners understand this. Most of you all understand this, that Islam is not and should not be a religion or identified as a religion. It should not be. It's not just a religion.
Well, hold on a second. Eric Holder says, I don't want to worry too much about the terminology debating on the Islamic extremism issue. He says, I think people need to actually think about that and think about, really, are we having this conversation about words as opposed to what our actions ought to be, in reference to calling this Islamic extremism, or this is what Holder says. Attorney General Eric Holder Tuesday dismissed conservative criticisms of the Obama administration who have accused the president of downplaying the religious leanings of violent extremism. We spend more time talking about what do you call it as opposed to what do you do about it, Holder said. If Fox didn't talk about it this way, they would have nothing else to talk about, it would seem to me. Radical Islam, Islamic extremism, I'm not sure an awful lot is gained by saying that.
Really?
Conservatives have criticized the administration for what they say is shying away from mentioning Islam when talking about recent terrorist attacks. President Obama has said those labels alienate the vast majority of Muslims who share who share in the horror at terrorism and dismiss the self-proclaimed religious motivation of groups like ISIS. Speaking at the National Press Club, Holder dismissed the debate itself as a sideshow. It doesn't have to have any impact on our military posture. It doesn't have any impact on what we call it, on the policies that we put in place. He said, what we have to do is not defined by the terms that we use, but by the facts on the ground. So I don't worry an awful lot about the terminology, the appropriate terminology, or what that ought to be. I think that people need to actually think that, and think about really what we are having this conversation about words as opposed to what our actions ought to be.
Interesting approach to this.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Let me ask you this, Joe. I mean, if you were going to consider that Eric Holder obviously has an agenda, and that agenda is to cover the true nature. You see, ISIS is Islam. ISIS is really, truly Islam, is an example, and people will argue this intellectually. And say, no, it's not. It's an aberration. But no, folks, ISIS is based on 1,400 years of past behavior, is truly Islam. And here's where the disconnect is. If you look at Islam real quick here, Islam is really comprised of three individual yet closely integrated systems. You've got your religious, political, and military systems. The religious aspect, people are immigrating here coming into the United States and practicing or seeking protection, using our Constitution to seek protection for their religious freedom. The numbers of Muslims are dramatically on the rise because of our immigration or lack of immigration policies and enforcement. Then you've got the political aspect. You've got to increase your political presence inside the country in which you want to conquer. And then you've got your military part, which comes a little bit later when you've got the demographics down and you're covered through the Constitution of the United States, where you're allowed to practice freely your religious part of the Islam. And now you can exercise your military component of Islam, and therefore eliminate all non-Muslims. And you might think that this is hyperbole, this is, it's all BS, but look, past behavior is the best indicator of future performance. We've got 1,400 years of past behavior, of behavioral examples. Look at the Byzantine Empire, 550 after the fall of Rome. Of course, that was prior to Islam being being founded, but ultimately fell to Muslims. The Persian Empire, Iran today. Look at it in the sense of the Byzantine West versus the Persian East in the context of the Cold War. So when we look at Islam as well, very quickly, if you were a follower of Islam, who would you look to emulate? Who would you look to as the best example of a good Muslim? The answer is Muhammad, correct? Well, okay. Because who do Christians look at as the best example to emulate? Jesus, right?
Hopefully. They're not Christian, if that's not the case.
Well, when you look at the life of Muhammad, born in 570 and died in 632, and of course, upon his death that created the Sunni versus Shia rift. But having said all that, in between there, working backwards from 632, at 630 you've got the conquest of Mecca, 628 the Battle of Khaybar, 627 the Battle of the Trench, 624 the Battle of Badra. 622 is when Muhammad fled from Mecca to Medina. You've got this ruling, this abhorrent conquering by Islam and the killing. So adherents or the Muslims want to be more like Muhammad. Well, and one might say, well, wait a minute, this is not backed up by any scripture or any type of anything from the Quran, because the Quran you will hear all the time, CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Well, look, Islam is a peaceful religion. Well, Surah 5, verse 17, infidels they're defined. If you look at Surah 5:17, infidels are defined as those who declare God is the Christ, the Son of Mary. That's the definition of an infidel. So an infidel, folks, is anybody who believes in Jesus as the Son of God. Surah 5:73, infidels are those who say God is one of three in the Trinity. Surah 9:123, make war on the infidels who dwell around you. Surah 4:101, the infidels are your sworn enemies. Surah 47, verse 4, when you meet the infidels on the battlefield, strike off their heads. Gee, I wonder where they got the beheading idea today. On and on and on and on and on and on and on. So compare, for example, and I can go back to just briefly. If you look at how Islam came into being, well, it's a combination of and folks, you know this, Zoroastrian, the religion of Persia, the Manichaeism, which really began 2 centuries before Islam, Judaism, the Talmud and the Mishnah, oral traditions, and Christianity. But Christianity, Muhammad being introduced to Christianity, he was introduced through apocryphal and heretical sources, apocryphal texts and heretical sources. So, for example, like the infancy Gospel of Thomas, which is not part of the Bible, yet Islam does rely heavily on this particular book. Once again, the infancy Gospel of Thomas, and if you want an idea of what is contained therein, that contains stories of Jesus speaking from the cradle and making with his hands birds out of clay and then clapping, and they all flew away. All these birds flew away that he made out of clay. You see, that is not a scripturally sound doctrine, but this is what Muhammad reportedly, well, not reportedly, by his scribe, had taken from Christianity. It's heretical. It's confusion over the nature of Jesus, combining the religions I mentioned, or the belief systems I mentioned. And there are 3 sources of literature of extreme importance in In Islam, it's not just the Quran. The Quran represents the private revelations to Muhammad, but you've got the Hadith, which are stories remembered about Muhammad by his wives and warriors, and then you've got the Surat, which is the biography of Muhammad, and that was written about 100 years after his death. Those are the three sources of literature in Islam. And we talked about this yesterday with Russ, accounts where Muhammad would describe, or at least his scribe would, and has documented, that Muhammad was inspired by sounds of, for example, sounds of buzzing bees near his face. Who wrote that? Umar Khattab. While others times he felt this tremendous headache. Many times it seemed to his friends that he swooned and looked drunk and intoxicated. We talked about this yesterday with Russ Dizdar. So all of this, again, we have to recognize that Islam is not just a religion and should not be considered a religion, that it is a religious system. It's actually a political and military system masquerading as a religious system. And as such, we should treat mosques in this country much different than churches or temples, Jewish temples. Why? Because it is at these locations where their military and plans of conquest of the country, this country, are being created. Look at the record between Jesus and Muhammad. Answer these yes or no questions. Jesus or Muhammad? Did Jesus kill anyone? No. Muhammad? Yes. Did Jesus lead any armies during his ministry? No. Muhammad? Yes. Did Jesus own any slaves? No. Muhammad? Yes. Did Jesus have wives? Multiple wives? 1 or 2 or 3?
Well, you just said, did Jesus have wives?
Right.
You say no. Okay, there you go.
No. Muhammad had.
I think, unless I misheard you, I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. Did he torture? Yes. Muhammad, not Jesus. Did he condone lying?
Through offense of the truth in today's political
What does
arena.
Dave Dobmeyer say? What's his big quote?
When the truth becomes hate speech. That's as much as I know.
Well, yeah, what Dave Dobmeyer says.
Or truth has become hate speech.
Those who hate truth consider truth hate speech.
Yes, there you go. And
think about
so
that.
True. I mean, so true.
So many people, especially if you're a Muslim, listening to this, and I know I'm going to get emails about this show, but I think it needs to be said. Many Muslims will consider this hate speech. It's not hate speech. This is intellectual discussion identifying facts right from the source, right from the books of Islam, and they're not taken out of context. And if you want behavioral examples, look at the last 1,400 years. And I'll close with this. We see where the problem is when you look at Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama is Islamic that's his upbringing is a Muslim, but he also has an affinity, an allegiance to Islam. He's stated it as such, but also I found a very interesting interview on the internet. It is an interview with someone who was very close to, in fact, was very close to al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS. I'm working right now to authenticate the interview and to have it translated. It was translated with the interview is done in Arabic with English subtitles, but I'm working to have it authenticated. But the bottom line with this is he was talking about ISIS and about the creation of ISIS and how it came to be, and said that, and we can document this as well, where Obama had given $50 million to Egypt on behalf of the Muslim Brotherhood. Obama had communicated through an intermediary to support the Muslim Brotherhood operation in Egypt. It wasn't just it wasn't just the State Department. It was at the executive level, and you might think, well, that's his prerogative as the chief executive. No, not in the context in which it was done. But think about this. This has all been done with the knowledge and consent of not just Obama and the people around him, but those predecessors before him, including George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. Why? What is the objective? The objective is to advance a new world order. Without looking at it through that lens, it wouldn't make sense. And we have people now within our government. You know about all of the Muslim infiltration within our government. That's to advance a larger goal. Look at Keith Ellison, the first congressman ever to take the oath of office on a Quran. In case you're wondering, or in case you didn't catch years ago when he was sworn in, what he said, I'll tell you what he said. And listen to it through the context in which I just set up here. I set it up. He said this: you've got to have faith in Allah, and you got to stand up and be a real Muslim. If we believe in Allah, if we turn to the Quran for guidance, we'll find an answer to the questions we have. Well, let me ask you, Mr. Ellison, what questions are those? What answers are you seeking? Certainly not the answers, either constitutional or Christian. And the quote of the day on our website is, or I think it might have been yesterday, but it has been determined by the Supreme Court that this is, in fact, a Christian nation. America is a Christian nation, period. So, Obama, the renegade in chief, sorry, you're wrong. It's not a diverse nation. And the tolerance should be narrow in terms of who we allow in, because, you see, who we have allowed in are the very people who are working to bring us down. And we have seen, and all you need to do is study history. The conquering of Mecca, the conquering of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, the conquering of Damascus, St. John Church, the conquering of Hebron, Cave of Patriarchs, the conquering of Constantinople, St. Sophia, conquering of Athens, the conquering of Spain, the conquering of India, the drive by the Muslims to drive the population from Algiers. And obviously, most recently, the conquering of New York City. Because out of all the places I mentioned, places of Islamic worship, mosques have been erected, and the attack on New York City is no different. So what we're looking at here is global conquest, political military systems here in America, operational in America, softening the ground, preparing for the ISIS infiltration, and preparing for the chaos that's coming. So when ISIS says, see you in New York, are we talking about fear? I mean, is this just promotion of fear? No. No, it's not. But understand, it's not just the Muslims, or it's not the Muslims by their own initiatives, by their own hands. They're tools of the New World Order. I hope that makes sense. So, if you see, for example, a Jewish synagogue being blown to bits by a Muslim, is that a false flag? Well, no. I mean, can you say, well, did a Muslim blow it up? Hey, probably, because of the predisposition toward that objective. But who's funding? Who is providing the means and opportunity to allow or to facilitate that type of operation? You call it a false flag operation. By definition, I suppose it could be considered as such. Did it happen? Would it, if it does happen, as an example, does that mean it didn't happen? Of course not. Did it happen at the hands of a Muslim? If in fact, it did, yes, of course. But do you stop? Do you stop and say, do you stop at that point and blame Islam? Only Islam? No. You look further. You gotta expand the search to get all of the players here, because behind those actors, behind those perpetrators, with the bloody fingerprints in charge, who are pushing for a new world order. Does that make sense, Joe? Or did I just fall off?
No, that made sense.
Okay.
Just some things I would change, or you talked about the 9/11 attacks and those being propagated by Islamic extremists. I think that's yet to be determined. That's what was presented to us.
Well, right. And folks, look, I understand. I guess you would not blame, for example, it would be out of the norm to blame a group of Amish, and this is to the extreme, absurd to the extreme, but you wouldn't blame a group of Amish farmers for the attacks of 9/11 and have it believable.
Right.
But when you blame or even have Muslims take part in such attacks, is it believable? Is it plausible? Of course it is, because of their predisposition and their past 1,400 years of past behavior. So of course it is. You've got to make it presentable to the people, palatable and believable. So the Muslims out there, having had 1,400 years predisposed toward this type of operation, of course you've got a ready-made perpetrator right there, because you wouldn't, if you're going to hire a hitman, you wouldn't go to your Baptist minister. You would go to those most predisposed people, right? If you're the minister. So that, I guess, the whole thing. So you're correct in that. For that, but regardless, was there victory in the eyes of Muslims with respect to 9/11, and especially at Ground Zero in New York City? Certainly, because they have established their mosque there at Ground Zero. Should have never allowed that to happen, but they did. And I went back and went through the major conquests there by Islam from Mecca to Algiers. Didn't I? I mean, obviously, in every one of those locations, Mecca, Jerusalem, Damascus, Hebron, Constantinople, Athens, Spain, India, Algiers. What do we find there? We find Islamic strongholds in the form of mosques. Does that mean that they acted alone? Of course not. Of course not. In New York City? And elsewhere? No, of course not. Go back to the 100 Years' War as referenced by Kissinger. Go back to the statements made by Brzezinski, the PNAC document, and others. What are we seeing here? We're seeing something much bigger, on a much bigger scale. Does it involve Muslims? Absolutely, it involves Muslims. So, as a tool. So, there you have it.
All right, we're going to take our top of the hour break. Ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Tuesday, February 17th, 2015 of the Hagman and Hagman Report. We are joined, as we are every Tuesday, by Mr. Stan Deyo. His website is standeyo.com. Bookmark that site for the latest updates and news about his interviews and upcoming shows, presentations, speaking engagements, and more. Stan, it's great to have you back on the show.
Good to be back, guys. Had a really nice holiday, I guess it was. Surprise week of, being an old guy, the vintage dude.
We hear.
Have you seen the?
Well, Stan, if I can, no problem. We hear that you actually had, and folks, it was Stan's birthday last week, and he had. We all should join him, and I hope people who have the opportunity to wish him a happy birthday. But you had quite a day, quite a time, didn't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't had all my 4 sons together, here for forever, actually. And this is the first time, and Holly and the boys planned a surprise 70th birthday for me. And I tell you what, they've been working on it for months apparently, and I never knew a thing was going on. Kept hearing little whispers behind the scenes, at the party. While we were hiding in closets, and we'd shut off in the middle sentence because you were coming around a corner, and the neighbors all knew. I didn't know. All the family and their families knew. And if you look at my show images page up in the top row there, you see the first picture. The first boy to arrive, well, it's Nathan and Josh, but Nathan had the camera on his phone, and you see this Valentine wreath with this stunned mullet looking out through. That's me, the stunned mullet. And the reason I was really so shocked to see him was because 2 days before, in the evening, about a day and a half before, I guess, I'd been talking to him and his wife and his youngest daughter. They were going to take her out for the day at the water park or to a shopping mall, etc. She's only about 3 years old or so, but anyway, we were talking over Skype, and he's in Australia, 12,000 miles away, and we finished up our discussion, and day and a half later, here's that sucker right there on the front door, and I'm thinking, how did that happen? I was just talking to him. Well, he got me, and they came on in, and I had a couple more boys over, one in Texas, one in Louisiana, and I figured they'd be kind of like busy. But I said to Holly, I said, did you invite all the boys over here? She said, well, I did, but the other two couldn't come because of business. I said, well, okay, I understand that, And so we were sitting there talking a bit, and another knock comes on the door, and this time it's the one of the two that weren't there yet, and from Texas. And I didn't immediately recognize there was this guy holding up this map or something in front of his face, and all I could see was a baseball cap or something on top of the map. And this guy makes a bad pronunciation and says, "Can you tell me where I can find this Pueblo city?" And I'm thinking, I know that voice. That's great. So I pulled that map out. Get in here, boy. And so he came on in, and then I heard that the other one couldn't make it, so we had dinner and a bunch of chatter and whatever, and getting ready for the dessert course, and they decided to call up the other boy and say hi to him on the phone. So we did, and I talked to him, and he was telling me how he was having to move his office and move furniture, and so, he couldn't get over it. I said, well, I understand. Anyway, 5 minutes later, we're outside on the deck, in the evening there, by the chimney of fireplace, and I see this huge set of bright lights coming down, the side of the house. So, we were where we couldn't see the driveway, and he'd come over in a big truck, and it was the lights, and it was the fourth boy coming in. So it was a gotcha. I was absolutely surprised by all of them, and we had fun for days. Actually, they all camped out in various rooms and corners of the house. We made room for the boys and for Greg's wife and the two boys there, or well, one boy and one girl there. But so we had a full house, absolutely full house, and it's probably it is the best birthday I've had in my life. It was just really great to see everybody together there and having such a great time.
That's wonderful.
As you can see.
Yeah.
You can see there on the website on the top of the show images page. I went out and did a selfie out there with the mountains in the background with some of the balloons they had there. The theme was the vintage dude, the man, the myth, and the legend. So I posed for that like, Jesse James would or something,
or Barack Obama.
We did have fun.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
But you can read all about it on the home page. Holly put up the thing, told the story and all that. But that's why I wasn't on last week. I just thought I'd share that with you guys. They make us totally slack. Wow.
Well, I got to tell you, Stan. Joe and I knew about it. We knew about it.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, we did. Holly had said, "Look, we're having this big surprise party. Stan doesn't know anything about it," and we knew about what was being planned and what was coming, and we were so excited for you. We really were, and it's just great, man.
None of you guys let it slip. I tell you what, she was probably doing payback for when I did her 60th birthday surprise last year. And
Well,
one of our dinner parties, we all set it up behind the scenes, but it was nothing like this.
I don't believe
she got me in this, and I'll never top it.
Well, I don't believe she's 60. I don't believe you're 70. Folks, go to standeyo.com. Look at the images page, show images page, and what a beautiful family. And this is, Stan, isn't that what it's all about? I mean, really, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about.
Yep, of course it is.
Wow.
But it's really good. The two boys from Australia, one of them had seen snow before, but the other one hadn't. I got them together and drove them up into the mountains, up into Beulah Valley, and found a nice big patch of snow we'd had up there, and then filmed them having a snowball fight. And they didn't do anything by halves. You and I'd probably roll up a little snowball size of a baseball or softball and chunk it at each other, but they were picking up chunks of snow and packing it. It might have been like 8 inches in diameter. I mean, they were getting serious about it.
Medicine balls. Medicine
yes,
balls. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, we do like that animated. The river dance at the bottom. Near the bottom.
We're still working on that. The boys are helping me do that, because that was just the first one that I did real quick. But because Holly was taking the pictures with the camera, that you put it on multiple photos, so it'll take one bang, 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 bang like that before you can even blink an eye. And so there were a bunch of little runs like that where we were either turning our heads left and right or moving our hands funny or something. It's absolute hysterical. I mean, just anyway, we're putting it all together, and Jeff, one of the 4 boys, is going to put it to music, probably river dance and some other bits and pieces. It looks more like the Folie Bergère to me, but like the line dance. But anyway, we laughed so hard our jaws hurt when we started flicking through those things and rocking them back and forth to look at the picture 1, picture 2, picture 3 type things, and it just looked like an old-timey, color, but black and white silent film. It just absolutely a hoot.
Oh man!
Anyway.
Well, we're so glad and we're so happy, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer gentleman celebrating.
Well, thank you guys.
My goodness, and a nicer family. What a great looking family you have, and God bless you and Holly and your sons and everyone. And thank you. And we got a lot of emails just now, just saying make sure you wish Stan a happy birthday. So there you go.
Well, I got 35 of them from your listeners over the last, I guess 4 days or so. I've saved them, and they haven't been able to answer them all. But between you and Steve Quayle's show, I didn't even know you'd said I had a birthday on there, and people were sending me happy birthday stuff. I think, well, how'd that guy know, and how'd that lady know? So, absolutely, thank you a lot, guys out there that are listening that send in those happy birthdays. I do appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you more. I mean, it's just you're just a tremendous man. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, where do you want to start off tonight, Stan? I see you got some interesting things on your show images page. Aside from the birthday celebration and the vintage dude button, the New Madrid fault region has really caught my eye. We have questions about Yellowstone and some other things going on. Where do you want to start tonight?
Well, I think the thing that's foremost on Holly's mind and mine has been for days now has been the increase in activity by ISIS in the Middle East. They've virtually surrounded the top half of Africa. Started running the nations around there, basically centered around Tanzania and Kenya in that area, plus over in the Middle East. And we've been watching this guy over in Iraq, who is an Iranian general. I've mentioned him before, but ISIS is becoming, so much of a thorn in the side of everyone that, to me, it looks like ISIS is being set up to take the fall to bring into place the great military genius of the time, the Antichrist. And I believe that Qasem Soleimani, if General Soleimani from Iran, who's fighting them and winning in Iraq and a couple other places, if he's not the Antichrist, boy, he's closer than anybody I've seen in a long time. He's got the right name. He's a military genius. People are saying, who can beat him? I mean, even the United States couldn't beat him in Iraq when he was over there fighting for the Iraqis. So we're just seeing that this is coming to a head this year and soon, so that ISIS gets overthrown by a consortium of Arab Muslim nations under the leadership, probably direct leadership of Iran and Qasem Soleimani. And then there's another guy that's popped up over in Greek, a newly elected official that, I mean, he's asked the Pope to, let's make a peace treaty in the Middle East, between Israel and the Arab nations and the Palestinians. And so that guy might be eventually become the second beast, or someone like him who will do the negotiation at the negotiating tables rather than at the end of a gun. But Soleimani is more the strong arm, and this other fellow, I can't remember his name, the Greek politician who's been elected there, but he might be being groomed to set up a consortium of the east and west legs of the old Roman Empire, getting the European nations to join with the five major nations in the east of Arabs, so that they have a revived Roman Empire, like Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream says, with the 2 feet with 10 toes being nations of the world. But I think it's got to be bigger than that. I think we've got to have 10 nations to cover the whole planet, 10 regions. But if not, if it's only the revived Roman Empire, then it will be 5 European nations and 5 Arab nations that are part of the old Eastern Roman Empire. So that's what's really been, what we've been watching, is because the fighting is becoming very, very intense, and the White House here has actually done something toward being involved in it. Whether I approve of it or not is another thing, but there seems to be some action other than golf at the White House. And we are in the second half of the Shemitah, of the Red Moons. This year we'll have 2 of them, and then that's it, and for a long time. So this year may well be the year of great changes, and that is all focused around what's happening over ISIS in the Middle East. As far as the new Madrid, sorry.
Before you move on, yeah, I do, and this is from me personally. Trying to wrap my head around this, and we're seeing things happen so quickly. But let's just say that your premise is correct with respect to the placement or the identification and placement and operational aspects of the 1, if not 2, potential Antichrist candidates. How quickly could this come about? In other words, are we looking at a process that could, the eradication of ISIS, or at least the containment and the establishment of a peace treaty? How quickly can that come about? Could it be months? Would it be months, or would it have to take longer, I guess, is my question.
Well, months perhaps to get the initial portions of it signed and in place. There are pockets of ISIS around the place that will not give up. They'll have to be taken down. So that won't happen until, an Arab consortium forms of the Arab nations to put ISIS down, or ISIL, or IS, whatever we're going to call it now. I don't know from week to week what we call them. But anyway, I do see the beginning of that peace treaty this year sometime. We have the Oslo Accords, which were drafted and tried back in the late 90s, and then went to sleep, and now then they've been trying to revive it. Shimon Peres has been talking to the Pope about making a one-world religion. Shimon Peres had Nimrod Novik, who was on his advisory team when Shimon Peres was Prime Minister of Israel, and Nimrod Novik was part of a group of people from the United States and Israel, Europe, that drafted the Oslo Accords. And that may be reactivated, or it might be the blueprint of what they draw up, which would just need a couple of changes, and they could put it into place tomorrow if the parties agreed to it. But that hinges, in my opinion, on Netanyahu holding power. And if he doesn't hold power in Israel, the new government may well swing toward a deal and giving away more land, which is a no-no, but that's what they're headed for. All that could happen just suddenly. I mean, like, weeks, maybe, maybe a few months, but I mean, very, very much so this year, between now and the end of the year.
Well, what starts and forgive my my ignorance, I suppose, in advance, but this is more of a cross between it's kind of a doctrinal question, but what starts the 7-year clock? I mean, if 7 years was contained on a stopwatch, and when you press that stopwatch to start the 7th year, what act starts that 7th year or the year?
Well, I think it's going to be a series of events that happen rather quickly over the Middle East, and we will be brought to the brim of nuclear war, because there may be elements in Israel that don't want that peace treaty, who go ahead and make a preemptive strike on Iran for the nuclear threat there. That event could trigger such chaos across the planet, with people regrouping and forming alliances openly anyway, to go against Israel, and possibly, I guess, against America too. But we've already been horribly neutered by the current administration here. But somebody will probably finish it, and all that will be part of the chaotic threat of war, total global nuclear war. And the peace has to be brought about by the first beast, the Antichrist. Now, how he's going to do that is probably, since if it is Soleimani, he's an Iranian, he will defeat ISIS without question. He'll do an absolute beat down of them and win. And as such, will be a hero in Iran and in the Middle East, because it will have brought peace to North and Northeast Africa and to the surrounding Arab states around Iran. So he could probably be the leader of the Arab consortium that forms the new eastern leg of the revived Roman Empire. All that has to come about to begin the tribulation, but understand as far as a rapture position, that the rapture does not take place until the man of sin is revealed. So if he's revealed at the beginning of the tribulation, and it starts somewhere around him, in the beginning he will be, hailed a hero by people across the planet, whatever, and he will have the support of the alien beings, like Satan and his fallen ones, posing as our elder brothers from out there in other worlds and galaxies and whatever. So he's going to have super technology behind him, which will make it easy for him to work tremendous technological magic for the people of the earth and fool everyone, even the very elect of the believers, if such were possible. And it would not be possible if the believers were not here. So sometime between the moment that the tribulation begins and he is declared a great military genius and leader of the world and ready to bring peace to the Middle East, from that moment until the middle of the tribulation, somewhere in there, the rapture can occur. And there will be people saved in the tribulation period. After the rapture, there will be the tribulation saints that will be called up, in my opinion. We all read the same scripture, and some people have different interpretations, but that's the way I see it. And so we're looking at the beginning of that, I think, this year. The 7-year tribulation, I think, will start this year. And it will probably be a 7-year tribulation based, on a 360-day year lunar calendar, I'm pretty sure, but it might be 1265 days, but it's 1260 if you base it on a 360-day lunar calendar year that the nation of Israel has used, since it formed.
Right.
There may be other factors like famine and riots in America, but a number of somethings are going to make the people of the earth very dissatisfied with their governments and wanting peace at any price, and that is going to be a dangerous time.
So the stopwatch is at the ready, or at least someone's holding that stopwatch anyway, metaphorically speaking, I suppose. Wow. Okay.
It'd be interesting to see who's funding ISIS, really, Probably a lot of capitalists that are in Europe and America. Yes,
and we touched on that earlier. I mean, obviously the CIA, the MI6, and the Mossad, to some, believe it or not, to some extent. But I mean, all criminal cabals within the various Western intelligence world, as well as a lot of the Arab countries, even within Saudi Arabia.
Don't forget Mr. Soros.
Oh yeah. I mean, you've got people who, 1 hour of war is worth more than 1 year of peace, to these people. So, yeah, indeed. All right. Well, thank you for your
what we're
input
seeing
on
with
that.
the ISIS. Sorry, with the ISIS situation, being blown up so rapidly, worldwide, it smacks of the way that George Soros goes into a country and has his people on both sides of an issue, stirs up a conflict, and then out of the conflict comes one united, group of countries under one banner, and he controls it all. And that this is just I mean, it's the way the communist theory works as well. You have thesis, antithesis, enemy, good guy, whatever, and now that comes a synthesis of a new way, and he's got people on both sides of the issues, whatever they are. And ISIS is definitely one side of an issue, whereas the Muslim nations in the Middle East that want not a caliphate, but a confederacy of Muslim Arab nations, they are on the other side, where ISIS wants to have a caliphate with no individual countries. So he's got them on both sides, and I know it's going to go toward the confederation, where the Arab nations involved in it can keep their sovereignty but still be part of a united confederacy of Arabs and Muslims. Anyway, I'm through talking now, so that's all right.
Well, all right, Joe, I'll bounce it back to you because you had started about the
the New Madrid.
Yeah.
Stan, we saw a pretty there's and this is, I'm going to incorporate a listener question into here. One of the listeners wanted to know about the earthquakes that we've seen in the northern East Pacific rise. There was a 5.0, 4.6, 5.2, and we saw I think there were 2 quakes in Japan. I believe it was yesterday, and 7.0 and a 6.9, and they boiled it down to 6.8. And we see that there's been a common denominator in the earthquakes I've seen, at least with a depth of 10.0 kilometers. I think we've talked about that in the past. But the New Madrid has been a issue where the Department of Homeland Security and their geospatial operations have made significant room in incorporating the New Madrid issue as a huge issue for American safety, possibly, dislocating up to 144 million or affecting 144 million people if it were to crash. What are we seeing here? I see some of the maps you put up. Is there an increase in the natural earthquakes occurring along this fault line?
Well, along the New Madrid, there are some small little tremors. Really nothing that I would get excited about normally. But because of the activity that we see around Oklahoma City, where they're fracking and, fracking for gas and oil by, putting pressurized water down these formations and causing significant number of earthquakes. And then they're taking the salt water back out and they're dumping that somewhere in another deep crevasse where they use 10,000 pounds of pressure to shove it into the rock formation. So they're taking salt water, throwing it down into there, getting the gas and oil out with the salt water, leaving a vacant place there, around Oklahoma City in those fracking wells, and then pumping it out to somewhere else. Now, in the last 30 days, we've seen quakes around Dallas, south of the Oklahoma City stuff, just directly south. And we've seen a number of little quakes, when I say little, like 2s and 3s, around the New Madrid fault line, principally above Memphis, Tennessee, and on the northeast corner of Arkansas, which they're both on, like one's on the west side, one's on the east side of the Mississippi River. And those earthquakes are, over a month, these things have been forming a pattern. They're not in the last 7 days, but in the last 30 days. So looking at that, and then these Japanese earthquakes you're talking about, I'm thinking, holy cow, I hope that doesn't let the Fukushima-related stuff loose. That tells us that whole western part of Pacific Ring of Fire is undergoing some changes, and it looks like from the pattern of these things over in Japan that they're running from the plate boundary, the Western Pacific, Northwest Pacific plate boundary in the Ring of Fire, going directly into the Sea of Japan, as though a new fissure is opening up to split off the main island of Japan from, say, Tokyo up to, up to Sakata and above there. And I'm just trying to see here. I'm trying to read the Japanese on this. But anyway, it looks like it's going to be a new fault line that breaks across the northern tip of the main island of Japan. And on the other side of the Pacific, we've been seeing, as you mentioned, the Pacific rise. Honolulu has been having earthquakes related to the volcanic activity there on the Big Island. And in the Pacific Rise, there's already a little plate that's been there for a long time that connects to the Baja, but it is definitely under stress now from Panama to just a little bit north of Santa Cruz in the ocean there, and then bending around up toward the Baja, the Gulf of California. And then new quakes in the last 30 days down from Santa Cruz area there down into the Peru, what do they call it? The Peru Rise or something like that. But the problem is that we've got stresses all over the Pacific Ring of Fire, on the Chile side, western side of South America, and then Peru, and out into that Peru basin out there. So that whole plate is definitely feeling stress and starting to pop along the known plate boundaries. At the same time, we've got stuff running at the middle of the Atlantic Ocean from the South Atlantic, even down at the pole, all the way up to Iceland. And this, again, is unusual. I mean, we watch these patterns. There's a lot of your listeners that watch it and send me emails, have you seen this, have you seen that? And so we're all seeing the same thing, that there's a lot of unusual activity in places that don't normally see a lot of activity like this together, within a week to a month of each other. So the Atlantic, the Pacific Ring of Fire, Japan, particularly up in the northern part of it, and even in Greece and around there in the Baltic Sea, in that area, there's a cluster of quakes going on there, and north of India. There's something happening out there, and I would expect it, and I'm seeing what I would expect start now. We've got weather problems. They'll tell you right now that they won't call it global warming. Pretty soon they're going to actually call it climate change on a planetary basis. And they're going to say, well, we're going to have severe droughts, worse than we've had already. And California says, oh, no. And Colorado isn't too happy about that either. But then the eastern states are going to have more cold, and that's going to hurt them and their crops just as much as drought. So the climate change is going to hurt food production all over the world. And the economy is just hanging by a thread, and the countries in the know have been buying gold and consolidating their positions free of the U.S. dollar. So that's going to hit our economy, and people are going to be unemployed, and people are going to be crying out for a new global economy that works, where those rich cats get their just desserts, the Illuminati get their desserts, and people are, enough of the common people are aware that there's, rich bankers and blah, blah, blah at the top that have been manipulating world events toward a one world order, that they'll be happy to see him go. And it'll take a man who's a man of the people in the Middle East, this Qasem Soleimani or someone like him, great military leader, who will overthrow a lot of these places and banks and economic consortiums in favor of the grassroots person. And he'll be a folk hero. He'll be able to do this because he'll have super technological weapons given to him by Satan, posing as a messenger of light, love and harmony from the stars. This, I see this just coming upon us rapidly this year. There's just so many sightings of UFOs. I mean, so many more than normal, and the world tensions on so many fronts are right at that fever pitch, that it's only going to take a little spark in each of these things I was telling you, these crisis curves, and people are going to want to revolt and overthrow their governments in favor of someone who can stop the pain of poverty and food deprivation, famines, and can get the weather under control. So we're ripe for it. We're just ready for it.
Well, yeah.
Isn't that happy news?
It's pretty weighty news. I mean, in looking at this, obviously, everyone is expecting something. Reverend Graham had mentioned the coming storm. Everyone, it seems, that is spiritually in tune can feel something about to take place. Obviously, we don't know with certainty or precision exactly what that is. We have our suspicions: economic, earth changes, war, a combination of everything. So, it's real simple. If we understand, I mean, to me, it is anyway. If we're spiritually in tune, we can feel it. We don't need a weather forecaster to tell us that a storm is approaching and how bad it's going to be. Maybe those people, and I use this analogy on our website, but the people who look through the Bible or look at current events through the biblical scripture, biblical prophecy, I think we have to turn towards people like yourself and others who have a great understanding, and so we can stay out of harm's way for as long as possible. And I think that's what we need to do. But man, yeah, it's things are happening at a breakneck speed.
Well, we need to keep an eye on the Vatican, this new Pope, and Shimon Peres and this new leader in Greece for developments down the road toward this united Roman Empire, revived Roman Empire. I could be wrong. In my book, The Cosmic Conspiracy, on page 200, I have the Club of Rome map for the entire planet divided up into 10 regions. And that may just be a red herring that was put out there, by Satan a long time ago to make us think that the 10 regions spoke of in the prophecy, in Daniel interpreting the Nebuchadnezzar's dream about the 10 toes. It might be that those 10 toes are not global, but they are regional, between the nations of Europe being 5 and 5 being from the Arab nations. I don't know. So I'm keeping an open mind, and I'm certainly not, pedantic about what I suggested in the draft, the first draft of the Cosmic Conspiracy. But we are seeing something, patterns forming that we need to be aware of.
Stan, this might sound like a really academic question, or really, how can we prepare? I mean, obviously, to the average person like me out in the world. I mean, we work, we've got families, we've got commitments. We're just average people, average folk. How do we prepare for something like this, and how do we avoid damage, or how do we best? We're gonna get clipped regardless. I know. I mean, wounded or whatever. But what can we do to best prepare ourselves, in addition to preparing ourselves spiritually in the Word? I mean, what would you recommend?
Well, look, there are Christians all over the world at the moment, and have been for a long time, being killed for being Christian by, their enemies, whether it be atheist or Muslim extremist or whatever. Of recent days, a number of 21 Christians, Coptic Christians, were beheaded in a most terrible way. And what could they do to prepare to leave their country? They couldn't afford to do that wherever they go. And here, I mean, we have resources here in this country, and people in Australia have resources, and in Europe, but in South America, and in China, and India, the percentage of people who can afford to physically prepare is very small compared to the total population. Here, if you prepare, for digging into your house and thinking that'll be, putting everything in your house that'll be safe, or out in your farm, that's not going to be the cleverest thing. But certainly having made provisions so that you can go mobile, either by car, or bike, or on foot to get out of town, out where the major population centers are, that is clever, in my opinion. We need to endure. We need to have, like the 5 wise virgins waiting for the arrival of the groom at midnight. We need to have our wicks trimmed. We need to have the supplies we need to be ready to go when we're called, when the groom calls the five wise virgins, the bride in essence. I think that we will have to leave our homes at some point to escape the persecution that's going to happen here in the United States and in Europe and South America and Australia. When we do that, from what people have shared with us in the dreams and dream visions that they've had, Christian people, the Holy Spirit will indwell the believers who are being true to the Messiah and withdrawing from this new arising global world order. And we will have transport, like teleportation, that like Stephen got to when he got moved up to talk to the eunuch to witness to him. He just was a blink of an eye gone from here and up there. We'll have food, like the feeding of the 5,000 that Jesus did. There will be healing, as Jesus did, and the lame will be able to walk. The blind will be able to see. We're going to see this pour out on the bride, the church, and it will flow into the Christian community then, and more people will be joined in the joining in the Holy Spirit of all the believers. That means that we'll go where the Spirit tells us and where the Spirit puts us. The technology that is there will be as good as or better than what you saw in Star Trek, like food replicators. Okay, your food bowl fills up, and that happened in the time of Jesus. That's not a stretched imagination. Teleportation off of the starship to another location. Okay, Stephen was teleported. Put it in the modern idiom, but that's what happened to him. And in the infirmary on board the Enterprise ship in Star Trek, where they had little gizmos they could wave over and regenerate tissue and make your body whole. Broken bone, in just a second we'll run a little gizmo over it and it all heals. Technology better than that, where when the Spirit is indwelling the church here, the members of the body can touch a person who's got broken bones or damage and watch it heal right before them. They don't need a little gizmo. It's in the Spirit, which is connected to how God directs things here. So that kind of preparation means you've got to be staying close to the Lord daily, saying, okay, what do I need to do today? And, here's a situation that's arisen. How do I handle this? And stay, within your will, what's happening. And that means that we will have to make the leap of faith. Like in the Indiana Jones movie where they had the search for the Holy Grail, and Indiana Jones had to step out over a great chasm into space, just step out and hope to goodness he didn't fall, 3,000 feet below. And by faith, suddenly there was a bridge of rock between him and where the Grail was stored. That's what we have to do. I have to leap out in faith and say, okay, I have to leave behind a lot of the stuff I've accumulated here in my house or property because you can't take it with you, and we're going to have to go where the Spirit tells us. So that's going to be a test of faith at that point. So get ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree a lot with what you said, Stan. I do believe that we will have to leave our homes. I do see as you said, any one spark can take. We're at the tipping points of many, from economic, political, social unrest in many different parts of the world, and one spark in each of these different areas, or just in a few of these areas, can create a domino effect. That with the times we're living in, all these governmental bodies, religious and governmental bodies intertwined with each other, the blood moons that we have, the earthquakes, the weather. I mean, it's all, not that Christians need signs, but these things were foretold in the Bible. We were told to know the seasons we were in, and we were definitely in a season of change. And it's thankfully it's one step closer to the Lord Jesus returning, but unfortunately we will have to walk through and be tried by the fire as we approach these times that are coming.
Yeah.
A weird thing happened today. I was taking up the mail of books and things, to our local post office where we go all the time. And I know the staff there and the lady that owns the place. And walked in, there was a new guy on the counter training. And I looked at him and I thought, holy cow, this guy belongs in the Middle East. Black beard, black hair, young fella, dark, not smiling eyes. I thought, is is ISIS slipping in, or someone is Obama letting this happen? And then I got home and looked at the front of Drudge, and it says U.S. officials admit concern over Syrian refugee effort by Obama to let him in to the United States. And I'm thinking, I wonder who this guy is. Or, they're going to put stuff in our mail here, and I hate to feel that way, but it's like profiling. I looked at him, I thought, holy cow, I've seen you on TV, I'm sure, in a bad way. And the guy may be nothing more than just, unfortunate to look so much like the Middle Easterns, but, oh, Lord.
Well,
if we,
this unfettered immigration that we're seeing in the Syrian refugees. I mean, we created, as you pointed out, we created the refugee problem to the extent that we armed and helped the anti-Assad armies, the terrorists, if you will, and it's through bipartisan support. And of course, we created the refugee problem in Syria, millions of refugees, as well as all throughout the Middle East. And now we're embracing these people, bringing them here wholesale to dilute. And this is not to disparage the people that are the refugees, but the deliberate dilution of our culture, of the fabric, the moral, the makeup of our country, and without any concern for the integrity, the population, the integrity of the population here in this country. We're losing our national identity, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And it's by design. So
we can look back now and then see all these chess moves now that they're unfolding before our eyes, but it tells you that there's been a lot of late nights spent by whoever's planning this to get these clever moves, so many moves ahead of us.
Yes, indeed. Joe, do you have you've got some issues, or you got not issues, but questions there?
Yeah, looking here to see what questions were left for Stan. Yellowstone. Margot asked, she says she continues to be concerned about what's happening in Yellowstone and wants to know that she says there's a cover-up of what's really going on. And have you seen any indicators from Yellowstone? I know that it's something that we follow a lot, and things seem to be changing there somewhat, but that's not something that I've been keeping up on too often. And I know it doesn't change much week to week, but anything significant as far as Yellowstone stick out at you?
Well, I've been trying to, run analyses over the last 10 or 11 years of data I've got out there on these what they've published, and there is some increase in activity earthquake-wise near Maple Creek sensor, and definitely Madison River's been having some little tremors, little quakes, which could be magma on the move. And I know that the major part of what we're looking at or concerned with there is a magma movement in the northeast corner of Yellowstone. But I've gotten no more inside tips from people involved in it or related to people involved in it. So I can't tell you any more than what I know now. I do know that Yellowstone's been rising a bit and then falling off of it and then rising a bit, as far as the altitude in various places of it, which, again, is part of the magma dome building up. It's just one of the many things that we have to consider. Would I live in that area by choice? No. And would I live east of there and southeast of there? No. I'm not close to it anyway. And we're in Colorado, which is almost due south of that. But I think the prevailing winds of the gases and things that are going to be released, if that does start to have a magma eruption or a volcanic eruption, the prevailing winds will blow it over into Kansas and toward the Mississippi River and down into the Bayou country. And how far it goes, I don't know. I know that's why FEMA's concerned. We have gotten some information from guys working with FEMA as contractors over on the eastern coast on various things, and it does seem that FEMA is really preparing for massive movements of people out of the major cities somewhere east of the Mississippi. Other than that, I don't have any more information on Yellowstone and other areas there.
No, okay, it's interesting you brought that up in the context of Yellowstone, but what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, is, or understand it properly, is FEMA is preparing to relocate masses out of the city, but east of the Mississippi, although the locations are not specific to you. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the relocation may be the people just start to run out of the cities to escape, and FEMA will be there to kind of direct them. So will Homeland Security and some of the military troops, I'm sure, and they may be relocated on both sides of the Mississippi. It's hard to say where they're going to put them, but they've run the exercises in the last 3 or 4 years down the Mississippi and the New Madrid region to feed millions of people in body bags and makeshift, well, not makeshift, but prefabbed caskets that will hold 2 people, and so they can stack them and bury them in big areas. So they are preparing for something seriously, and I think we may be getting close to that one way or another, whether it be warfare, whether it be geological or what. I just don't know. I don't even know if we get fed the information from an alleged leak, whether we can trust it or not these days.
Right. Jill from Chino writes, and this is kind of an interesting question. We haven't visited this topic recently. You mentioned body bags and other such supplies. She wants to know your take on your thoughts now, given what you know now, 2.5 years later, about the large ammunition purchases by DHS and other federal agencies. How do these fit in? Are these still relevant, she asks, and that's Jill from Chino, California, listening live.
Well, look, it takes a while to run off the billions, like with a B, of rounds that they want for these various government departments and military. They may still be filling the orders that we saw placed 2-3 years ago. The thing that they're preparing for is not that they have to use all that ammo at once, but they want to have it for, policing what comes out of the catastrophes that are ahead of us, because we will not probably have factories functioning and mineral resources needed to make the gunpowder and stuff here in the United States anyway, should these major disasters happen and civil war break out. So they want to have all the stuff they will need for years, and that's probably why they've gotten so much, in addition to drying up the supply to the smaller purchasers, individuals and companies that want to protect themselves and their employees. So yeah, it's just one of those things. By the way, that Greek guy's name that people are saying might be involved in this false prophet side of things is Alexis Tsipras. He's the new prime minister, allegedly an atheist and a left-winger, and they say that almost magically he's landed himself in the precarious situation where Greece is broken financially and the banks closed and open, and so this guy, certainly he may be the one to watch for what is growing. I don't know. I'm keeping that open.
All right. We'll keep our eyes on that. Joe, I see you looking over there.
I still get back to the thing.
Go ahead.
I still get back to the thing that we are not to panic that the man of sin, the first one, the Antichrist before the false prophet, the Antichrist has to be revealed to the world, of believers before the rapture can occur. But the rapture can occur, 20 seconds after that, or 2 months, or 2.5 years. But right after that, and there will be a rapture of the bride, which those are the Christians who are definitely always, praying that they're found worthy daily and following Yeshua, the Messiah. But there will be more people who become believers or believers who become activated during the tribulation after the rapture. So, I just can't see any other way than just wait for the Antichrist, the great military genius, to be revealed. And Soleimani is certainly coming to the forefront just almost daily. If you just look up on Google News and stuff and say Qasem, Qasem, sometimes they spell it Qassem, General Qasem Soleimani, and the Google News stories on him all over the planet are just legion. There are huge numbers of them. And keep an eye on him. I think that'll be the first beast we got to look for. And if he gets a head wound and then magically reappears on the scene, he's definitely revealed.
Would Western? I'm not even sure how to structure this question, but would the Western world accept a man like that as just in the geopolitical sense? Would the Western world, the West, the U.S., the U.K., would they accept a man like that as a world leader, if you will? We might not. I guess we might not have you saying it, but
well, look, the people are going to want someone to stop the chaos and the threat of annihilation by nuclear war and famine, whatever. And if this guy or some other guy is backed by Satan, posing as the head of a alien race that's come here from the stars and created us, they will have technology to give to the new world leader that will astound the people of Earth. And they'll say, look, who could beat a guy like this? I mean, look what he's got. He's offering us, from his friends in space, and hey, they don't have any track record. They're not Democrats, Republicans, Muslims, or Christians. They are just what they are.
Right.
And that's how people are going to fall for it. It's going to be a deception so incredibly clever that we would all fall for it if it weren't for the fact that some of us are taking prophecy literally and sharing it with our brothers and sisters in the faith, saying, look, don't be fooled, but get ready.
And that's what we have to do. And I think that's our, Stan, I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, but I personally believe that each and every one of us listening to this broadcast, or not even listening, but just existing today, I believe that we were actually born for this time. And I think that we all have specific jobs to do. And if we pray hard enough and get mentally properly correct in the proper mindset, we'll be tasked with those particular jobs. We'll understand what our job is. Perhaps it's only to save one soul, or maybe not even that. Maybe to touch one person, and that one person will in turn save 1 or 10 or 100 people, or be responsible for their salvation. But I do believe that we're born for a time like this.
I think you're right, and it's going to be like it was the day of Pentecost. There's going to be healings and talking in various different languages from people that don't even speak the language normally. There are going to be miracles performed in the early part, and I guess during the tribulation as well. But in the early part, there will be massive miracles performed by the agency of the Holy Spirit indwelling the church. It's a mighty outreach to people that are borderline believers to say, look, it is real, it's not fictional, and what we're doing through our bodies here is through the Spirit that indwells us from the real creator of all that is. And that we're approaching that time. And I think we were born certainly to that task. Jesus knew us before we were even in our mother's womb. So, it's our job to pick up the sword of truth, as it were, and get out there and use it.
Amen, brother. Wow. Man, that hour went fast. We're at the top of the hour, Stan. I got to tell you, you never fail. I mean, it's always great getting your insight on these matters, especially matters of geopolitics. I've found your insight to be tremendous, and I really appreciate that. But I really mean this. I believe that all of us, we of course we all look for purpose in life, don't we? I mean, that's what we do. some bigger purpose, and I think that many people have found it in what they're doing right now. And I think that people like yourself and boy, I hope we're included in this as watchmen to warn others as to what's coming. But I think you're doing a fantastic job. My goodness.
Well, I don't know anybody else, out there doing it other than the people we know, and we're a dwindling number. Hey, by the way, I've been invited to go over to with Gary Sturman and Bob Bullock in Oklahoma here in the next few weeks to film a couple of interviews on Eden and on the Solomon analysis in their new TV program that's going to be going on DirecTV and a number of Christian TV stations in Colorado and elsewhere. So they bounced back and
Skywatch TV.
Yep.
Okay, great organization. There's really little. There should not be competition, and no one should look at it as competition. We're all in this together, going forward with the same objective. So fantastic, man. So you're gonna, this is great. Talking about your findings with respect to Eden and such, but folks, if you haven't gotten Stan's lecture series, please go to standeyo.com. What a great, comprehensive, well worth the time to invest in that. You did a lot of work on that. My goodness. So.
Still working on it now. I've got to, make a printed book about it to, give the proper presentation of the facts. And if the Lord tarries a while longer, then that'll be one of the jobs that I've got. And Holly's doing her new book, which will be months in the writing and researching, but all related to end time situations and what's happening. So
excellent.
We keep working until the good Lord says time's up.
Fantastic, Stan. Thank you for another week of your time. I'm glad to see that you had an excellent surprise party. One for the record books, and thank you, Holly. And we just hope that we can have many more birthdays for you, Stan, and for us all until the Lord calls us out of here.
Well, I'd like for us all to be doing that in the heavens rather than here. But anyway,
amen.
Be it as it may.
Right, sir.
And you guys are doing a heck of a good job and reaching out to folks with all the stuff you do several times a week, many times a week. And I don't know how you do it and stay sane, but anyway, good on you.
I'm not. Yeah, we're not saying we're sane.
Yeah, who's saying that?
Okay, sorry, I got that wrong, did I? Guys,
right, my
I'll
brother.
let you get on to your next hour.
Give our best to Holly and everyone there at your household. God bless you, my friend. Stay safe.
God bless you. Good night, folks. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, Stan. All right, we're going to take our commercial break. We'll be right back on the other side with your phone calls. We do want to hear from you at 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. This Tuesday edition of the Hagman and Hagman Report, we want to hear from you this hour at 661-244-9839. If you're already called in and on hold, just as an FYI to those who might have been trying to get a hold of us and who call in, you have to press 1 to let us know that you want to speak to us if you're on hold and you haven't done so already. I want to give you a brief announcement from HH Connections from John, and he writes this: the team at HH Connections wants to say thank you and hello to our new friends from all 50 states and 14 countries around the world. God has blessed this initiative so fruitfully that we have had over 500 Hagman listeners check in since our launch 2 weeks ago. We have introduced many new friends to each other in over 10 states and are making dozens of connections a day. Currently, new introductions are taking 5 to 7 days. We look forward to introducing all of you fellow Hagman listeners. God bless each and every one of you. Be encouraged. New friends are on the way. From John. Thank you, John, for all the work you're doing at HH Connections. And no, as my dad would say, it's not a dating site. It is a site for fellowship. It's not even a site. It's a email address that you send an email to if you want fellowship, if you want to help other people who are seeking fellowship, those who are lonely and don't have family, people who are shut in, people who need somebody to talk to. And that is HHconnections@startmail.com,
Yeah, it's good. It's a preparation method of preparation too. If and we've seen this happen a lot where um, you might meet a listener in your own hometown. You would never know them to be of the same mindset as you, perhaps our logo on their vehicle. You might say, "Hey, I listen to the same program. I recognize that," or whatever. It's a method because we're all, Stan said, and we know time is short, and I believe it to be. And who knows? You might have a neighbor, someone close within your proximity that you can reach out to, and like minds. You can move mountains. So why be alone when you don't have to be?
Absolutely right. Let's go to the phones. We're going to go to area code 763 first. 763. Thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagman and Hagman Report. What's going on tonight?
Hey. I think my ears are bleeding.
We heard a big bang when you jumped on, just to let you know. But
okay. No, long time listener. I'm just first time caller. Wanted to say thanks for everything you guys are doing. It's awesome.
Well, thank you for listening. And where about in the country are you with 763 area code? Is that the? I mean, you don't have to give your city.
Minnesota.
Okay, all right.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
Wow. Okay. So, it's. What do you make of all this stuff going on, the ISIS and everything that we see taking place? What do you make of it?
Well, I find it pretty amazing, actually, just everything that's happening. And like you guys say, how quickly everything is unfolding now that it's actually starting. It seems like it's snowballing and going quicker.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I'm amazed at how rapid things have progressed, even over, going back to 2012 to today, roughly, it's 3 years. But my goodness, how much ground we've covered and how fast things have happened. I can only imagine what the next 2-3 years are going to bring. So, but glad you're with us in Minneapolis. Love you. Glad.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me too. And I mean, I always listen to you guys. I've never really, all the things that you guys talk about, all the stories and everything in the news, I see it around here now even. It's crazy. Like, for a long time you just hear about it and it seems like, oh, that happens in some other state. But now, you can see everything you guys talk about happening right up here. I mean, even the guy from Gray State, he lives in this area.
Right. Okay. Yeah, And I think the things that are taking place, Minneapolis, St. Paul, in that area that in which you live, I look at that as kind of like a test or a beta test area, and I suspect there are several around the country. In fact, I think the area in which we live, I know for marketing purposes, it's an area where new products are tested. I think you're going to see things happen more in your area than perhaps somebody in Billings, Montana, for example. So keep your eye out. Watch for the demographics to rapidly change. You're going to see that taking place in the Twin Cities. So. Oh,
definitely. I've seen a lot of those military vehicles. The what are they? MRAPs, I think.
Yep.
I've seen those now just on normal city streets, and I've told people about it, and then they'll call me and say, "Oh, I just saw one, just driving down the street for no reason." So I definitely think they're trying to get people used to it or acclimated.
Yeah, I do as well. Well, my friend, God bless you. We really appreciate you calling in, checking in with us, and call anytime. We appreciate having you on board, and thanks for your
Thank you.
diligence.
God bless you, and take care.
All right, brother.
Have a good night.
You too, Joe. Bye-bye.
Bye. We're going to go from one caller in the 736 area code and move to another.
No,
caller.
That was a 763.
Sorry, 763 area code.
Okay.
Caller 2 in 763 area code, you're live.
Hi.
Hi. You're from the same area, Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
I had called previous to this, and I just wanted to know what you found out about Pastor Langford coming back on and doing some spiritual programs to help us.
Well, that's in the works. Yeah, that's in the works. We're actually looking at something perhaps after the conference in Orlando, which will culminate in actually the first full week of March. So we're looking at we're talking with Pastor Langford. He's got so much going on. His schedule is so demanding. But what we'd like to do is something similar to what we did a couple of years ago, and that's a series of programs, because he's got so much to offer. And your request, previous request, did not fall on deaf ears. We've been working very diligent, to get things structured properly.
Well, thank you. I know I wasn't speaking just for myself. I know that there's a lot of people that really look to this program and to the people on the program for not just information, but relationship, spiritual development. And the program has really meant a lot to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, that means a lot to hear that from you, and that element that Pastor Langford offers. My goodness, where can you find that? So, but stay tuned, because we're working diligently to bring that forth for you.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. I thought you were working on it, but I just thought, well, I'm going to call in because I'm free right now, and I just enjoy the program and listening to everybody, and I just love the family aspect, because yes, I do feel I emailed Stan the week of his birthday and said, "Happy birthday, Stan." So,
that just makes me smile, because you think about this, and I remember listening to Stan Deyo, early days, Art Bell, and the level of respect that I had for Stan, but had back then, and same with Steve Quayle and others. And now, as time has gone on, now to see that, yeah, we're all a big family, we're all working toward the same goals, and that family aspect is so important to all of us. It really is.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all you're doing. So,
well, thank you. We're doing it. We're all in this together, and we appreciate your time. God bless you, God bless you, ma'am. God bless
thank
you.
you.
Wow.
You have a great night.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to area code 970. We're coming to you. You're live on the Hagman and Hagman Report.
Is this me?
That is you.
Yeah, I'm calling. Oh, that's great, brothers. Lord bless you and keep you. I'm just so pleased with what your ministry is doing for the children of the Father, and I just can't. I'm kind of a new addition to the family. I was brother in Christ shared your website with me a while back, and I've been listening diligently, and I'm very much blessed by everything that you, Doug and Joe, and Stan and Steve and Tom and all the other brothers that you have on there. This is all extremely important for people to hear, and I'm quite heartbroken about the state of the quote-unquote churches in the world, and in this country especially. The scripture says that the traditions of men have made the word of God of no effect, and I prefer to be referred to as a follower of the way, because the Lord Yeshua said that he was the way, the truth, and the life, and that no man comes to the Father but by him, and that he is the living word. And as was expressed earlier, what Stan said about the fact that, from beginning to end, it's all there, and it's been laid out for us. And my particular calling right now, the Lord has called me to leave off of my business and serve him, for the time is short. And
wow.
I just wanted to be able to express my appreciation for you folks, and I don't want to take a lot of the time here because there's other people that want to do the same thing that I'm doing, and I just bless you in Yeshua's name, and I pray a hedge of protection around you every day, each and every one, and all of the brothers that come on there, because I know that we are all of us that serve the Father are at risk from the enemy, and we need to be there for each other and hold each other up before the throne, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of every need. So,
amen.
I'm really appreciative
said.
of the fact that I was able to get this. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate having you call. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I did send you a little meager tithe and offering here from Colorado here a while back, and I'll try to do more. I don't have great resources, but as I'm led, I am sharing those resources with each and every one. That,
well, God bless
my
you.
Heart.
And any support, monetary, prayer, sharing the word about the show is so much appreciated. We can't thank you guys enough for all you do, and we appreciate it.
Well, you're much loved, and may the Lord bless you and keep you, each and every one, and grace and peace be on your house.
God bless
you. Same to you. May the Lord be with you, and have a good night. Thanks for calling.
Joe.
This is Michael, just so you know. I'm in Western Colorado.
Michael from Western Colorado, we have you down here, and we hope to hear from you again. All right, brother. I'm going to cut you loose. We got a bad echo going here.
All right.
Yeah, man.
There was some feedback
there. Yeah, indeed. I want to, ladies and gentlemen, please listen carefully if you don't mind. Steve Quayle had sent me this. You know Jeremiah Farrell. He's all right. Jeremiah Farrell. Yes. Jeremiah Farrell, the gentleman going into Iraq, working to save the people, bringing supplies into Iraq. Okay. Yeah, sent Steve Quayle an email, and you can find this off of Steve Quayle Alerts, I believe. Jeremiah Farrell sent Steve Quayle an email, and Steve asked me to read this on air. It was sent today. This is from Jeremiah Farrell. The subject is a quick update. Jeremiah Farrell writes, "We made it safely and have started plans to work with the Peshmerga and have done our first aid clinic for refugees. God is good." But listen to this. Unfortunately, it took a week to get here instead of the 2 days it should have. Airline booking issues plagued us the entire trip. Finally, what really topped it off was the government authorities confiscating about $50,000 worth of our equipment we plan to use to assist in helping the Peshmerga and refugees. They detained us for 6 hours, causing us to miss one flight after another, and then released us and said we broke no laws, but that our equipment would not be released to us in time to leave with us. And parenthetically, he writes it would supposedly be mailed back home a few weeks later. And he writes, continuing, they tried to convince us not to go many times, but we were not deterred. Saying, "Oh, it's too dangerous. What are you doing? What are you thinking?" This is Department of Homeland Security and the TSA, as well as other international authorities. And he closes by saying this: "Needless to say, the enemy does not want us here and does not want us to spread the light in the kingdom of the Lord Jesus. God is sovereign above all of this. Your prayers are welcome and needed for favor, guidance, wisdom, protection, and divine health and rest." Thank you, Steve. Bless you. And this is again from Jeremiah Farrell. Folks, you've heard him on this program. He does so much work. And I'll say this to Michael from Western Colorado and others. We're just conduits, and we've been, I'm not even going to go there. If it's in your hearts, I mean, you talk about a very worthy cause to support. Jeremiah Farrell's a real deal. Man, getting all, I mean, going into harm's way, putting himself and other godlike men, other men of God in harm's way. You know, he's doing the Lord's work, saving untold numbers of Christians and people in harm's way in Iraq. What a great service he provides, Jeremiah Farrell. If you want to know how you can help him, just send Steve Quayle an email. That's all you got to do. Steve777@stevequayle.com. And Steve will make sure that any financial assistance, any medical assistance or supplies or whatever will get right to him. But that's the update from Jeremiah Farrell. And tomorrow night, folks, Steve Quayle will be on with Tim Alberino. I've got to tell you, tomorrow night, Stargates, Pyramids, Giants, and Atlantis. Be prepared.
I mean, it's all the fun.
I know, you know. Well, you could through your drug-induced haze in that.
I think I'll be very alert and at home, awake by that time. So.
You know, just listen, recover, but listen. It's going to be great. Once again, Stargates, Pyramids, Giants, and Atlantis. There's going to be an announcement made tomorrow night you're not going to want to miss.
I guess I won't then.
All right.
Let's go back to the phones. We're going to go to area code 303. I believe this is Colorado. 303, you're live on the Hagman and Hagman Report.
Yeah, hi, Doug and Joe. This is Bill.
Hey, Bill.
First of all, if y'all would, let's just lift Jeremiah up. Lord, we just lift Jeremiah up right now. We open the path. We open the doorway for him and his team to have a complete, safe trip. Just open the doors right now and just move him in a powerful way. Protect him and let your spirit rest upon him. Let the Spirit of the Almighty God surround him with that complete armor of God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, brother. Man, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I was waiting. I just wanted, this is not an infomercial, but Jeannie, our precious sister with that awesome coffee. Oh, my goodness. I feel, well, I don't feel guilty. I've given that to the Lord. I ordered some toffee from her. It was a special order because I had to have some sent one place and a 2-pound slab sent to me, and so when the heart got to my friend, it got there right on Valentine's Day. She called me up and she was just raving and ranting. She said, "What are you doing sending me this stuff?" She says, "I'm on a diet." She says, "and I'm gorging myself." I said, "Well, just pace yourself." So, and then the other, not an infomercial, but Chance. Praise God for that brother. Okay, I called him. I've made a couple orders with him, and we just have so much time fellowshipping that it's hard to get the order in, you know. And finally, it's like, well, wait, Chance, let's make sure. Let's do a double check on this. He's okay. We got this, and this. I said, well, check. Good. We're all right. He's okay. So your order's in, and then we talk. But at any rate, it's just, just as a unsolicited testimonial. Those two, I don't know about all the rest of them, but if all the rest of your folks are like Jeannie and Chance, I mean, these are top notch, and the products are awesome. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and Ted Broer with his Health Masters, top notch, and our other sponsors through BTR, Casper, and Pro Flowers and Nature Box, they're all top notch. It's just fantastic, and I just want to say something. When you were talking, I thought of this. It's amazing how God brings together like-minded people or people to the right place. Steve Quayle says often, God makes better friends for each one of us than we can make for ourselves, and that is so true. And to follow that up, God does remove people from our lives that need to be removed. For advancement, for our salvation, and for other reasons as well. So isn't it great how what, because we could never do this. There's no way we could do this ourselves. So I just want to mention that.
Yeah. Well, also, I forgot Ted Brewer. I got one of his books, right? And, I talked to his son, and, I'm just sort of drooling over his book, too. So, at any rate. But back to something Stan said. He was talking, I've heard numerous of your folks, that come on, they're godly people. And they're saying, God is going to be pouring out his Spirit, God is already pouring out his Spirit, And I would just encourage everybody that's listening, just get under the spigot, And I remember one time the Lord spoke to me. He says, he said, you'd get more of my Spirit if you got your foot off the hose, It's like we're standing on the hose. And it's the Lord saying, just get off the hose, I'll take care of it, And
that's it.
So
that's it.
I guess that's all I have. But
Wow.
So
thank you. Thank you for your words, your assessments, and we really appreciate that. And the people around us, top notch is right. And our listening audience, thank you. Thank you for being part of that too. We certainly recognize this is much bigger than any one of us. Yeah. Well, and also, if Chance or Jeannie talks to you, just say, it's Bill out at the Way of Peace, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Will do.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. Thanks
for sharing.
Okay. Thanks. God bless you.
God bless you, too. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Fantastic calls. Let's go to area code 513 next. 513, we're coming to you now. Live on the Hagman and Hagman Report.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I'm so excited to get in and talk to you folks. Couple things I wanted to tell you. Pastor Langford and Steve Quayle on January the 31st were awesome. Whenever I listen to that program, the last part of it when talking about communion, I just bawl. It's just awesome the way he explains that. And also the lady in Buffalo,
yes.
She was dynamite. She was just dynamite. She was such a blessing to me. And I hope we hear more from her.
You can count on that.
Crying also. Oh,
yeah,
good.
You can count on that.
God bless you. I'm glad to hear that.
She has quite a story to tell, and I know Chance had spoken with her at length, and Joe and I both have as well. She's got quite a story to tell. If people only knew what she's gone through, it's just an incredible story, and we just heard just a sliver of it. So she'll be back.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, she has the Holy Spirit working with her, through her. It was dynamic. It was just dynamic. Also, I wanted to tell you that I am starting to tithe now. I just found you guys late last summer and been growing so much in the Lord through your program and through your guests. And I thought, you're feeding me, I'm going to feed you. So I'm starting to tithe.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
And
it's people. Look, I'll just say thank you. That's all. Just thank you. Thank you.
Well, you guys are wonderful. Like I said, I've grown so much from listening to your program and your guests. And I want to put a petition out there for all the other listeners to please just donate $1 a month. If all the listeners donated just $1, imagine what the blessing would be for all of us, not only you folks, but for all of us.
Wow.
And
that's amazing, yeah.
I mean, just, a stamp and a dollar bill every month. That's not much.
No, it's not. And one thing, and I just want to make this clear, one thing we do attempt to do, And I think we do a pretty good job of this. And I talked to Steve, and I talked to Pastor Langford. We do seek counsel, because one thing we never want to do is be improper stewards. And we want to be very responsible. And if we do, well, at the risk of sounding self-serving, the statement sounding self-serving, we do help others as well. And I'll just leave it at that. It doesn't. Mm-hmm. We do act as conduits for others, and we'll just leave it at that. So, thank you.
Well, that's biblical. You're welcome, sir. It's biblical to tithe, and then not only do we tithe to the church or to your organization, but you tithe to others. It's just all this giving and helping and growing. And I think if every listener could send you $1 every month, you have to have so many listeners out there. And if we could all pull together for you, it's not an exorbitant amount, but it is an amount that I think that could make a difference for you. And I hope people start doing it.
Well, thank you, dear. Thank you so much, ma'am. I mean,
You're
really.
so welcome.
God bless
you're
you.
So welcome.
And I'm so glad that I'm so glad you find us, that we're feeding a need, and that's all we want to do. We want to make a difference, and that's it. Joe. I mean, that's it. Well, thanks so much for your call. God bless, ma'am.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure. What's up?
Okay. What is the spelling on the name of that general that you spoke of, you and Stan spoke of? He's the Iranian general that could possibly be the Antichrist. I would like to look that up and research that more. Could you spell his name for me, please?
Sure. It's Qasem Soleimani. It's Qassem, like Mary. Once again, that's Qasem, Qassem, and the last name is spelled S-U-L. That's S-U-L-E-I-M-A-N-I. Qasem Soleimani.
Boy, I was way off. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very difficult name to remember. What I'll do for those, and that's a good idea. What I'll do, this will remain there throughout until tomorrow, I will put his name under the show images at HagmannandHagmann.com, and just a link to his Wikipedia page. That's not an endorsement of Wikipedia. It's just simply a place, place to go. But I'm glad you reminded me of that. That's good. In fact, it'll be up there here shortly. So, very good.
Thank you. Right. And wishing the best for Joe tomorrow.
Yeah,
the hand of the Lord on him. Yes.
It will
Thank
be.
you very much.
Okay. Oh, you're so welcome. God bless you both. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. God bless you too. Have a good night. All right. Just such terrific callers, and we're going to keep plugging away here. We're going to go to area code 210. 210, you're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, this is Dwayne. You hear me fine?
Yeah, what was your name again?
Dwayne, right?
Dwayne.
Dwayne, yeah. I called twice so far. Told me about my webpage about Dark Horse and Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Y'all had a chance to look at it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
On the fourth page, I put up a bunch of videos that I've been working on for 2 years. I've been working on these videos. Some of them I have been, and one of them is the Super Bowl last year, and I literally took way too much time on that, so I'm not going to even bother with this Super Bowl. But anyway, check out those videos. I just wanted to let you know.
And tell us your website again for the people, the listeners who don't know what it is.
Doubleuntoher.com. DOUBLE.
Okay. Doubleuntoher.com. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right.
Last time I
Go ahead.
last time I called, I said something that like that that most prophecy experts have pretty much everything wrong. And I said, well, and you said, well, what makes me right is what your response was, which is a pretty good thing. And I refer to Derek Prince. Derek Prince, usually when you watch all his videos, I watch all his videos. He'll very rarely get into prophecy, and sometimes he'll give an explanation. He says, I just don't understand it, and or a lot of it he says he doesn't understand. He does actually talk a little bit about prophecy, but and he gives a reason. He says, I have prophecy experts coming to me all the time, and and I say the same thing to every single one of them. He says, I don't trust none of you. I don't believe what any of you say because none of you all can agree with each other. So it's not
that's true.
It's not that. That's what he said. So it's not that I'm the only one right. It's like none of us are. Well, I feel I'm right. Of course, we all feel we're the one that's right. It's like if you really understand prophecy good enough, you can find out that pretty much every single person who says they're like an expert, they're off into their own field, own left field. We're all off into our own, almost a little world or whatever, and, well, somebody's right. One of us is right, is my point.
Very good. Appreciate your call, and you're exactly correct. Thank you so much for your call. And folks, I'll just say this. It's like we started our program to begin with, talking about the wonderful package that we received from Leanne and her family, and 3 wooden letters. Think about this. Getting those 3 wooden letters and very decorative, very ornate, very nice, and putting it here at our offices and putting them out, and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at the word mom, M-O-M, and thinking, man, wow. First of all, I was just wondering about it, why, and I was really, if you want to make an analogy, I was convinced I was looking at mom, M-O-M. And it wasn't until Joe came by and changed the positioning of the letters just with one movement of his hand to spell out the word wow. We were both looking at the same item, different perspectives. I might have argued for quite a while. It's mom. He saw something different. It was wow. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lesson to be learned there, right?
Absolutely. We all see things different. Our past experiences, what we've been taught, what we think we know to be true, or our paradigm shapes the way we see things.
That's right.
And we have to get out of that paradigm and see things the way the Lord wants us to see things, His way. And there's only one way, one correct way. As the last caller said, the disagreement between all the people was why Derek Prince didn't. One of the reasons he said he didn't listen to a lot of the prophecy people is because they didn't agree with each other. Well, that's Derek Prince, and he's somebody who, somebody sent us a few books of his that I've read that were very, very good.
Absolutely.
And his YouTube teachings are good. At the same time, to me, prophecy is something very important. It's what we see playing out before us. And, we don't try to fit current events into the prophetic timeline to make them interchangeable, per se, but it is a very important aspect of what we know is coming and how to discern the seasons. But beyond prophecy, the personal relationship with the Lord is first and foremost, should be the most interesting, most time-consuming, and hardest walk that you go through in life. Hardest learning lessons come from a closer walk with the Lord, because He purges the things away from you through trials and tribulations. And the more trials and tribulations you go through, the more things are tried from you and purged from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important. Let's take a call here, 480. I believe this is in Phoenix area, 480 from Arizona. You're live on the Hagman and Hagman Report.
Hi. How you doing?
Hi. Very well. What's on your mind?
We just wanted to send out positive prayers and wishes tonight from Kevin and Pam.
To Joe for tomorrow, we hope. And we're sending our good prayers and thoughts your way, Joe. And
thank you.
You're going to be okay because you're surrounded by love and good thought, and you will heal quickly and well. And we wish you guys success in everything that you do. And we can't make it to Orlando, I think it is, that you're going to, but
yes, we
were wondering, we heard that we could get a copy, download or something of the show. And you can get a download of the conference. You can buy a download of it or something, I heard.
Yeah.
I wondered if you knew anything about that.
You can go to hagmanandhagman.com and or prophecyinthenews.com. But if you go to our website, hagmanandhagman.com, there's an icon there, Orlando Prophecy Summit. You click on that link,
or
go to prophecyinthenews.com. You'll see there is a offer, and it's the first article on our website. You can click on that icon. It'll give you the schedule, the people speaking. The bottom of the article says more information here. You click on that. It'll take you to the Prophecy in the News. There you can buy a full access pass for $50 that you will get live streaming during and after the show, and you can have it directly streamed to your tablet, your PC, wherever you have a device that can view a live streaming link. And this link is accessible for, I think for last year's link, still accessible, if I remember properly. But $50, full access pass. You won't get everything that you'll get in the DVD. There will be a subsequent DVD after the conference is over and they put that together. But this is the next best thing to the DVD. You get it in real time and you can watch it afterwards and archive as much as you'd like. Yep.
Okay. All right. That super. And we were at the Columbus conference, and we got the DVDs for that. We haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but we're going to. But I also wanted to say that we listened to the Stan Deyo, I think was today, right? And
right.
When Russ was on, I got his book at the conference up there in Ohio. And I was reading through some of that when you guys were talking, and was getting a lot out of it. Well, anyway, I'm rambling on. And you want to say something?
Well, no, it's
a great book. Yeah, it is a great book. Yeah.
Fantastic.
You guys were talking with Stan today about the events unfolding and the quickening of the times. And I was looking out the window of our RV here in Arizona, and there's been lights in the sky that are interesting, and I just wonder if other callers or other people have looked up and noticed anything like that.
We'll put that out there. Yeah, we'll put that out there. In fact, time is running a little bit short for tonight's program. But if anyone has seen any lights in the sky that they want to comment on or feel are important, send them our way. You can go to hagmanandhagman.com, fill out the contact form.
Report there was a lights in Japan, firing lights in the sky in Japan, also across New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, reported last night, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Pamela's here, and she says, you guys are the best, and we know that because you are. Okay, one other thing. The armor of God, okay? We have to let all the remnant of the saved people know that if we all get together in our faith in Christ and put on the armor of God, that we can overcome darkness and there's got to be a way to get that out to more of the viewers, and the listeners. And I don't know if you might have any ideas on that, but I heard that statement from one of the pastors on Blog Talk Radio, one of the programs, that said if all of the people in Christ had their armor of God on and proclaimed their divinity, that we could stamp out the darkness, because it's the light that shatters the darkness. And if you feel strong about that in your heart.
In other words, as opposed to divinity, which, if we see, we've got the authority. The authority's been given to us. We just haven't used it. And you're exactly right. Let's lock arms, either physically or at least across the miles, and let's band together and fight the darkness.
Yes. And maybe there's a website that could be started to for those people in that of that mindset of that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, to go to that site or to get that message and kind of come together as one, and focus our energy and our love and our prayers and our thoughts and in that direction. That's just kind of what I've been thinking about, and just wanted to say that. And love you guys. You're the greatest. And almost time to go. And have a good night.
Well, thank you, and thanks, Pam. God bless you both. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, you guys have a great night.
Yeah, and that's kind of, Joe, that's what the object of HH Connections is, through John and Chance and Jeannie and others, part of our family.
Fellowship initiative. Yeah.
Right. And it's
and to think that within 2 weeks, 12 or 14 countries in all 50 states have already reached out and said hello. I mean,
it's amazing. And all you have to do is just kind of put as much information as you want, name and call. I don't know. You don't have to, just whatever you feel comfortable with. If you want to put a telephone number there, John, Jeannie, or Chance can reach out to you and make them make an introduction.
You said a 5 to 7 day turnaround time with getting back to people, and anybody who send an email to them if you have extra time on your hands and would like to be there to fellowship to other people who are calling in and needing reached out to. I know me and my dad will be doing some of that when we get back from Florida. We'll be volunteering some of our time, and all the people from American Survival Wholesale, Chance, John and Jeannie that have got this started, God bless them. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing. It's making a huge impact with people, and it's needed now more than ever.
And I just want to thank everyone. Tomorrow, as Joe mentioned, or as we mentioned, Joe is not going to be in the office tomorrow. He's going to have some surgery done. He should be home tomorrow night, barring any complications.
Tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow, and we, our prayers and thoughts are with him. But he's a tough dude. Okay, I didn't raise any wimps, right? Just going to tell you that flat out. I didn't raise any wimps. So, but certainly, Joe, we wish you well, and we'll be doing this. But we're going to miss you tomorrow night when Steve Quayle and Timothy Alberino are going to be talking about the Stargates and Atlantis. Oh, tomorrow's night show: Stargates, Pyramids, Giants, and Atlantis. Check our site later tonight, early tomorrow morning. And by the way, I misspelled. There are variations of the spelling of that man's name. It's on HagmanandHagman.com, right underneath show images. There's a couple of different spelling variations, but it's there, linked to his Wikipedia page. Say what you will.
Tomorrow night, Steve Quayle, Tim Alberino. Thursday night, Jonathan Kahn. Friday night, Dan Goodwin. Can't wait to see you here for the rest of the week. God bless and have a good night.